Hello everyone, I'm your host Vartika Bhandari and you are listening to Prep Talk podcast. In first episode we learned a lot about why AP is necessary for Indian students. Now that we know how essential AP is, let's understand the importance of different subjects under AP from industry professionals. In this episode we will learn about AP physics. Yes, brace yourself because this episode is heavy on fun and information. We will be grilling the mind of our very own founder of Tutela, Mr. Ashish Kumar, who also happens to be the industry's best AP physics mentor. Hello, sir. How are you?
Thank you so much, Vartika. I'm doing amazingly well. How about you?
I'm good too. So, are you ready for the podcast?
Definitely yes.
Okay. So, first and foremost, we would like to understand AP physics in your own words.
So, to condense the entire AP physics structure in one sentence, I would say it's hell of a course. Not very easy to sail through, but if we plan it well, and given we understand the curriculum as well as AP physics. So when we say course, we are trying to refer to the school curriculum. And if you look into the school curriculum content really well and try to integrate that with the AP structure, it becomes a bit fun to learn or move ahead with. So, AP physics, when we mention, it is broadly categorized into two parts: AP Physics algebra based and AP Physics calculus based. So, to define it in one statement, I would say it is very close to the curriculum based AP Physics learning which you do in school, but to some extent, it has been modified to fit into the college requirement or the college level content as well. Over to you, Vartika.
Okay, so we will begin with the first question. Now, since you said that AP is divided into algebra based and
Calculus based.
yeah, calculus based. So we know that there are four types that fall under
Yeah,
AP
yeah,
physics. Yes.
yeah.
So which is physics one, physics two, physics C mechanics, and physics C electricity and magnetism.
Yes.
So how would a student differentiate between four of them?
Sure. So, let's place these two into first categories of difficulty. So, algebra based is relatively easier to cope up with as compared to calculus based, which is physics C. Then, in the separate set of category is 11th grade content equivalent and 12th grade content equivalent. Physics 1 and physics C mechanics are both 11th grade content based, whereas Physics 2 as well as Physics C, Electricity and Magnetism are both 12th grade content based. So, by looking into how much a student has achieved in the current grade and what the student is trying to apply to, as in what kind of courses or what kind of aspirational colleges they are looking at, we select the courses. Now, if a student is in 10th grade and aspiring to apply into good schools and has relatively moderate score in physics as a subject in the 10th grade exam, it's recommended to look for Physics 1, which also covers 11th grade worth of content to give a better understanding in the current, that is the next grade, as well as to not push forward heavy, bulky content which is there in physics mechanics. So by looking into the requirement as well as the current status of a student, we help student in selecting what APs to look up for and what APs to go ahead with. So now to give you further better detailed segregation, and this will take a lot of time here, we will categorize each of the APs in terms of its content. To start with, the most simplest and easiest one is Physics 1. It has units, 7 in number, to start with kinematics, which covers roughly 15% of the content, dynamics, which is forces and Newton's laws, it covers somewhere closer to 20% of the content, circular motion and gravitation, approximately 5 to 6% of the content, energy, approximately 25% of the content. Next unit is momentum, which covers 15% of the content. Next one is simple harmonic motion, which is somewhere around 4% of the content. And last unit is torque and rotational motion, which covers approximately 15% of the content. Having these content listing, you must notice here that if you are thorough in kinematics, dynamics, energy, and momentum, almost you are already falling into a range of getting a 5 out of 5 in this particular AP. So now, if you're not good in calculus or the derivation based question or a very bulky application based question, but if you are good in simpler, concept oriented, straightforward questions and these topics, kinematics, dynamics, energy, and some, momentum, then taking physics 1 makes a lot of sense here. Similarly, if we look into physics 2 as content, unit again, it has 7 units. To start with unit 1, which is fluids, approximately 10% of the content. Next is thermodynamics, approximately 15% of the content. Next one is electric field and potential, that is force field and potential, approximately 20% of the content. Next one is electric circuits, somewhere around 15% of the content. Magnetism and electromagnetic induction, another 10%. Geometric and physical optics, another 12 to 14%. Last one is quantum, atomic, and nuclear physics, approximately 10% of the content. Now, if you notice on these units, it has 12th grade worth of contents being defined. If your 11th grade syllabus has not gone really well, and you are planning to get a heads up in your CBSE and ICSE as a curriculum, or for that say even IB, and you're also targeting physics AP as a subject or an exam to give yourself an upper edge. Looking into these parameters, going ahead with physics 2 while you are moving from 11th to 12th grade, it makes a lot of sense. Next one is physics C, focusing into physics C mechanics, and this particular subject is considered to be second most difficult AP exam just after calculus BC, and it has 7 units in total, covering to start with kinematics, which is somewhere closer to 15 to 20% of the weightage. Newton's laws of motion, somewhere 20%. Work, energy, and power, somewhere closer to 15%. Systems of particle and linear momentum, 15% again. Rotation, closer to 20%. Oscillations, or simple harmonic motion, somewhere closer to 15%. And gravitation is again closer to 15%. Now, these units might look very similar to that of physics 1. But if you check on the content bulkiness, as in the difficulty of the question, the way it incorporates differential and integral calculus, you will find these questions to be not just based on physics, but utilizing a lot of concept even from mathematics. If your 10th grade has gone flawlessly good, if you're thorough with a couple of units even for 11th grade, then while you're moving from 10th to 11th, doing physics C makes sense. Having said that, you will have to gain some upper edge in terms of calculus uses. If not, while you are moving from 11th to 12th grade, even then you can prepare for physics C mechanics. Now the last one is physics C electricity and magnetism. In terms of unit segregation, it has 5 units. To start with, first one electrostatics, approximately 30% of the content. Second one conductor, capacitor, dielectrics, approximately 15% weightage. Next one electric circuits, approximately 20% weightage. Then we have magnetic fields, approximately 20% weightage again. And the last one, electromagnetism, somewhere closer to 20% weightage. Now, as you can see, the units are very close as to that of physics 2, excluding fluids, thermodynamics, and the atomic structure. Here, the primary focus is to give a student a heads up in 12th grade content. If you are in CBSE and ISE, your every unit up till your midterm of 12th grade gets covered in physics C, electricity and magnetism, as well as it makes you equipped to handle college level physics when it comes to dealing with electricity and magnetism as a chapter. This physics C, electricity and magnetism is in terms of difficulty, a bit easier as compared to mechanics. If you feel like handling mechanics will be a lot, and if you feel like handling physics 1 and physics 2 will be a lot easier for you, then selecting physics C, electricity and magnetism makes a lot of sense. Having said that, so far we have compared these courses in just terms of their content. But also, there are a wider level of requirements looking into the college course and the college list, the APs we help student first to select and then to prepare with. So over to you, Vertika, and I hope I have handled all the content segregation as well as difference between these APs really well.
I think now it would have been a lot easier for the students to understand exactly which AP will be best for them, because when we handle students, a lot of them have the queries of which exact AP would be beneficial for them going forward for their colleges. So yeah, this may sound as a repeated question, but I would anyway ask it. How will taking an AP exam, whichever it may be, help a student in college?
Sure. You must have observed in the industry that is the number of students applying to highly competitive courses in schools have been increasing year to year. The seats are limited, and the standardized test score has all gone higher. So, to give you understanding, 5 years back, getting a 1500 or getting a 33 out of 36 in ACT, SAT and ACT both, the scores I've given, used to be a very rare occasion where only 10% of the student could cross that margin. This score range now has gone approximately 30 to 40% of the students are already marking a score higher than 1500 in SAT or a 33 of obesity. Now, looking into this, as well as the pandemic has pushed in the grade boundary up. Earlier, if you look into school academic score, there was approximately 5 to 10% of the student marking above 90% score. Right now, this has gone up to approximately 25 to 30% of the students are scoring above 90% in the school exam. So academics has become rigorous, as well as standardized test has become rigorous. Now, if you look from a college perspective, in order to select a student, now the ground categories which is helping them differentiate between the students are almost the same. So we will have to provide some upper edge of comparison. Having said that, there are a couple of schools which has mandate. That is, if you're applying to engineering courses or science major, you cannot apply to this school without having a certain number of APs. There are a wide set of these criterias which we look into, as in while we are having a discussion with the parents and student, and then help them select the course. Broadly speaking, if you're applying for engineering major, go for physics C. If you're applying for physics major or science major, go for physics 1 and 2. But these are very qualitative right now. The finalization of AP courses are very qualitative as well as quantitative criteria combined together. Now, just putting it forward in simplest statements, it won't be possible. But if any of the listeners, if they feel like they need help in figuring out which APs they must go for, definitely they can reach out to us and we will help them select what particular AP should they go ahead with.
Okay, so since you mentioned about the timeline, so my next question is on that basis. When should a student ideally start preparing for AP Physics? Like, is it different for Physics C or is it different for 1 or 2? Like, starting their preparation for AP. And how should they plan their test timeline?
Sure. AP Physics 1 and 2 preparation somewhere takes closer to 3 to 4 months of time, with basically one class or maximum two class per week frequency. So the engagement is somewhere closer to 3 to 5 hours per week for 3 to 4 months. Physics C takes the same amount of time, but the difference here is the grasping ability of a student. If you already have a good understanding of ninth and 10th grade level physics, you're good to get started with physics 1 and 2. And let's say if you achieve this criteria in ninth grade, you're thought of with ninth and 10th grade worth of physics content, you can pick up a physics paper when you are moving from 9th to 10th grade. But ideally, one of the physics exam can be done when the student is moving from 10th to 11th grade, can be physics 1, can be physics C mechanics, depending upon how well you have prepped yourself for the physics related content, as in just the prerequisite. I'm not talking about the physics C or physics 1 content actual. And when moving from 11th grade to 12th grade, student can attempt physics 2 or physics C, electricity and magnetism. This is the most widely accepted, or you see most of the student going ahead with this particular timeline. But in my experience, I have seen students as early as even eighth grade or ninth grade appearing for a physics subject. It all depends on how much you know and how much we can teach you to reach to a 5 out of 5 state.
Okay. So, does the level of difficulty different if we talk about a CBSE student or a ICSE student or a IB board student? Does the level of difficulty is different for the student?
Definitely yes. So when we look into CBSE and IEC content, they are very parallel. Parallel in terms of the fragments of question. So APs as the exam and the question type, the FRQs primarily are not just based on one concept, rather it includes multiple concepts together.
Okay.
Whereas CBSE and ISC have the same nature of question, that is the derivation based or proving based, uh, you know, but with one difference, that is CBSE and IC does not focus on application based questions, whereas APs are primarily based on application based questions. But the nature of question are quite parallel. CBSE and IC are based on just one concept at a time, whereas APs combine multiple concepts together.
Okay.
Now, this was categorization or basically similarities and difference between CBSE, IC, and AP. Whereas a student in IB, they have relatively easier concepts, but more of application based learning. Hence, when we compare AP and IB, the application based question criteria remains same, as in they are quite parallel, but the concepts have to be dived way deeper when we are moving or when we are also considering taking AP being in IB. So this is the wider differentiation or the wider difference or similarities between the curriculums and AP.
Okay, cool. So, since you are an physics pro, so how hard or how tough would you rate preparing for AP and taking APs?
It's not at all tough. First of all, we recommend only students who have achieved good academics in 9th, 10th, and if you are taking it a bit later, so in 11th grade, to step into APs. So it's not like everyone is asked or requested or, everyone should appear for APs. It's like if you are already a good hold in school academics, if your standardized test, that is SAT and ACT, is already going with good flow or you have already received a good score, talking about if you're in SAT or 1450 plus, if you're in ACT somewhere closer to 32 and above, if you're already lying in that zone, then you should think of taking or appearing for APs. So, having said this, if the students they are already doing good in academics and standardized test, it proves their learning ability or learning curve is very steep. So, starting from that point, it's not very tough, and hence, as I mentioned, approximately 30 hours to 40 hours is the amount of time it requires for a student to get done with any of the AP in physics. And having seen our track record in terms of scores which we have received for AP physics students, basically these are sufficient number of efforts required or hours required.
Cool. So this will be our last question to you. What are some general tips that you would like to recommend to the students that are listening for particularly AP?
Rather I'll limit my your suggestion and recommendation to physics itself.
Sure.
Whenever you are working in AP content for physics, make your learning question, that is concepts plus question based. Don't rely on covering up all the concepts first and then diving into questions. So fragment the content into as many parts as possible. If the number of units are 7, fragment the concept listing into 35. Cover one concept along with its question, concept number 2 along with its question. As you go ahead, let's say you have fragmented unit 1 into 5 concepts. Once you cover all of these 5 concepts together, Combine the unit, as in now your unit is ready. Then solve at least 50 MCQs and 10 FRQs for this particular unit before you move ahead. I have seen most of the student they start working more in academic or more of CBSE and ISC aligned methodology. That is, they keep on starting unit to unit, unit to unit, and start taking full length test once they are done with all the units together. This strategy does not work well in APs. You have to fragment the content into smaller portion and just keep on achieving one such concepts at a time. If you go ahead this way, getting a good score is guaranteed. And if you need definitely any if you need any help, we are there to provide the support.
That's very true. So, on that note, we will end this podcast. We hope that this podcast has helped you solve your AP physics questions to a lot. And if you have any more questions, you can DM us or comment down below. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Take care.